"We're going tomorrow, Mom. I've sold your beach house." My daughter said it like she was telling me the weather just standing in my kitchen. The mug slipped in my fingers and I set my coffee down before it dropped. My beach house. The one my late husband and I had saved for and dreamed about for 30 years. "You sold it?" I asked, making sure I heard her right. "Yeah," Jenna said, rolling her eyes like I was being dramatic. "The market is crazy good right now. You should be thanking me. We close tomorrow, so pack a bag. We need your signature on a few things." My heart thudded in my chest. The old oak outside barely moved in the wind, calm and steady, like the world hadn't just tilted. I wiped a tiny splash of coffee off the table just to keep my hands busy. "Sweetheart," I said, keeping my voice soft, "that house is in my name." She smiled then, not warm, sharp. "It was in your name. You signed the paperwork in March, remember? I told you it was to move everything into the family trust. You even joked about feeling fancy." My stomach dropped. March, the stack of papers she'd brought over, clipped together and highlighted. I'd trusted her. She was my girl, my only child. She'd pointed where to sign, page after page, talking about grandkids and holidays and how I shouldn't worry about old people paperwork. "I don't sell property without thinking it through," I said, more to myself than to her. "Well," she said, tapping her phone screen, "it's already done. I got a great offer. Cash buyer, inspection waived. You're welcome." The way she said cash buyer made my skin crawl, like this was a win for her, not for me. "Why the rush?" I asked. "Why tomorrow?" she sighed. "Mom, come on, don't start. We're going tomorrow because that's when the guy's attorney is in town. We sign, you hand over the keys, and boom, extra money. You don't even go down there anymore?" That was a lie. I had been down there 2 weeks ago. I could still smell the salt air if I closed my eyes. I'd sat on the back deck with my old blue blanket and listened to the waves crash, the same way I did when my husband was still alive. I'd told him I was keeping this place safe for us. "What did you do with the money?" I asked quietly. Jenna froze for half a second, just a blink, but I caught it. "It's in the account," she said. "Relax. I've got it under control." There it was, that little word. I'd like to see the paperwork," I said, "all of it, the trust, the sale, the wire transfer. I'm old, but I'm not blind." Her jaw tightened. "You really don't trust me?" I forced a tiny smile. "I trust, but I also read, humor me, kiddo." She shoved her phone toward me. "Here, the realtor emailed everything. You can scroll if you want." The screen showed a thread. Subject line, "Closing tomorrow, Harper Beach property." Time-stamped emails. An attached PDF called Final Settlement Statement. I saw my own name on the line that said seller. I also saw another line, disbursement to Jenna Cole, $482,000. My blood went cold, but my face stayed calm. "Looks complicated," I said lightly. "It'll be easier to go through on my laptop. Forward me everything, okay?" She shrugged. "Sure. As long as you don't freak out and ruin tomorrow." "Oh, honey," I said, turning back to the sink so she couldn't see my eyes, "tomorrow is going to be interesting." Because what my daughter didn't know was that I hadn't been as sleepy as I looked back in March, and the papers I signed that week might just ruin her perfect little deal. Jenna left not long after, car keys jingling like nothing big had happened. The front door clicked shut, and the house went quiet in that heavy way that only happens after a fight you didn't finish out loud. I rinsed my coffee cup, set it in the rack, and walked to the hallway cabinet where I keep my old files. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That scared, blindsided feeling was fading, and something older was coming back, something my late husband Tom used to call my steel spine. "Sold my beach house," I muttered. "We'll see about that." I pulled out a thin blue folder labeled Harper Beach Deed and Trust. On the top was a printed email from March, the one Jenna had sent when she helped me with my paperwork. The time stamp at the top edge read 11:14 p.m. She'd brought the papers over late that night after the kids were asleep, when she thought I'd be too tired to read all the fine print. I might be old, but I still know how to zoom in on a PDF. My eyes drifted to the framed picture on the wall, the one of Tom and me standing on that same beach, the wind whipping my hair and his hand around my shoulders. We'd bought that house after 27 years of him working extra shifts and me picking up sewing and babysitting jobs. We skipped vacations. We drove old cars. We packed lunches until we were sick of cold sandwiches. That house was the one selfish thing we ever did for ourselves. The memory moved, and I felt myself back at that long ago closing. The smell of fresh paint. the sound of the ocean through the open window. Tom whispering, "This is our little piece of forever, Em." Even now, I could feel the sun on my face and the grit of sand in my shoes. That place wasn't just a house. It was anniversaries and birthdays and my granddaughter Lily taking her first steps on that crooked old deck. It was where we scattered some of Tom's ashes, right where the waves curl and break. So no, I wasn't going to let it go with a shrug and a fake trust document. Back in March, when Jenna had slid those pages toward me, I had felt the first little prickle of worry. She'd been talking fast, filling the air with words so I wouldn't notice the details. "Mom, this just moves everything into one family trust, so if something happens to you, I don't have to fight courts," she'd said, pointing to the lines she'd highlighted. "Sign here and here and here. I'm already the trustee. It's standard." I remembered how she pressed her pen into my fingers before I'd even fully read page 2. There were more pages than I expected. The notary she'd brought was not the lady from my bank, but some guy she knew named Cody who kept checking his phone. The next day, something had stayed stuck in my head, one little line at the bottom of the deed. "Grantor conveys all rights, title, and interest to grantee, Jenna Cole." No mention of a trust there, just Jenna. So I did what any sleepy old lady with Wi-Fi and a brain does. I took pictures of every page with my phone, email timestamp 8:03 a.m., and sent them to my friend Linda, who used to work for a real estate attorney before she retired. Her text came back at 8:27 a.m., still saved in my phone. "Linda, this is not a simple trust. This deed gives Jenna full ownership. You only keep a small life estate. She can sell right after you die. Also, the way it's written, it's sneaky. You need your own lawyer today." That had been the second prickle. So I called the number Linda sent me, Mr. Carter, a gray-haired attorney with kind eyes and a cluttered office. He read every page while I sat there, my hands folded in my lap. "This document is legal," he said slowly, "but it is not what you thought you were signing. Your daughter has stretched the truth." I swallowed hard. "Can she sell my house? Not while you're alive and still have your life estate," he said. "But if you pass, it's hers, free and clear, and she's now got enough power to try to move things around." I looked him in the eye. "Can we fix that?" His smile turned sharp. "We can certainly make it much harder for her to play games with your home, yes." So we fixed it, quietly, legally, carefully. And I walked out of his office with new papers recorded at the county office and a very different setup than Jenna thought she had. And that was the part my daughter did not know yet. Because tomorrow, at that closing table she was so excited about, she was going to find out that the helpless old lady she thought she'd duped had already set the first trap. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table with my old laptop, a yellow legal pad, and a fresh pot of coffee. If my daughter wanted to play grown-up money games, she'd picked the wrong old lady. First, I opened the email Jenna had shoved in my face, the one from the realtor. Subject: "Closing tomorrow, Harper Beach property, timestamp 9:02 a.m. I clicked the PDF again, final settlement statement. The numbers were right there in black and white. Sale price at the top, then a long list of fees and taxes and title costs. My eyes slid down the page until I hit the line that made my chest tighten. Net proceeds wire. Jenna Cole $482,000 net proceeds. Emma Harper's $0. I took my pen and wrote it on the pad nice and neat. 482,000, I said out loud just to hear it. All to my helpful daughter? I printed the statement and laid it flat on the table, smoothing it with my hand. The ink was still warm when I saw another small but nasty detail, the wire instructions. Routing and account number, not mine. Hers. Next, I opened my browser and logged into my bank. I checked my accounts, one by one. No big recent deposits. No strange withdrawals, just my monthly pension, my social security, and my regular bills. So if Jenna was telling the truth about extra money for you, where exactly was that going to show up? My phone buzzed next to the keyboard. A text from Linda. "Linda, 2:41 p.m. You okay? You were quiet after my last message earlier." Linda, 2:42 p.m. Reminding you, the new deed Carter filed lists you as life tenant. Remainder goes to that little harbor scholarship fund we set up, not Jenna. Buyer can't get clear title without your fresh signature. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Right, the scholarship. Tom had always wanted to help kids from our town go to college. When Carter suggested we could lock that into the deed, I'd said yes with tears in my eyes. Sorry, Jenna, I whispered. You should have read the fine print too. I snapped pictures of the settlement statement on my screen and texted them to Linda. Me too, 4:45 p.m. She's trying to route all the sale money to herself, see attached. Linda 2:47 p.m. Wow, bold, keep everything, print it. Carter will love this. I printed not just the statement but the email thread too, with the timestamps and Jenna's message from the day before. Jenna, yesterday, 3:18 p.m. Got buyer to waive inspection, mom, super smooth. All you have to do is show up and sign. Promise I'll handle everything else. Winking face, that little wink emoji hit different now. I flipped open my worn leather checkbook and looked at something else. A note in my own shaky handwriting from a few months back. Call card company confirm no authorized user added. I remembered why. One night in April, I'd checked my credit card and seen a charge at a high-end furniture store across town. Timestamp, 10:42 p.m., total $1,973.59. I'd been home in bed watching an old crime show with my tea. When I called the number on the back of the card, the lady on the phone had said, "It was swiped in person, ma'am. The card's chip was used." That meant someone had my card. A week later, Jenna showed up with a brand new sectional couch and matching rug. Got a crazy good promo, she'd said, laughing. 0 interest for a year, you'd be proud of my budgeting. I'd believed her then. Now, with the settlement statement spread out in front of me, the memory slid into place like a puzzle piece. She stole a swipe then. Now she wanted the whole house. I stacked the papers, deed copies, the new recorded document, the text printouts, the settlement statement, and slipped them into a clean red folder. On the front, I wrote one word in big letters: proof. Tomorrow, when we walked into that title office, Jenna thought I'd bring a pen and a smile. I was bringing a folder full of receipts and a lawyer who already knew where every body was buried. And she had no idea what was waiting for her on the other side of that closing room door. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm, the way you do on days you don't really want to face. The sky was gray and the house felt too quiet. I made coffee, fed the cat, and put the red folder labeled proof into my purse. At 8:12 a.m. my phone dinged. Jenna, morning, I'll pick you up at 9:30. Wear something nice, this place is fancy. Face with tears of joy. I stared at the little laughing face. I wasn't going to be the punchline today. Before she arrived, I opened my laptop one more time and went to the county records website Mr. Carter had bookmarked for me. I typed in the parcel number for the beach house and hit search. There it was, my deed recorded 3 months ago. Grantor, Emma Harper. Grantees, Harper Education Funds / Little Harbor Scholarship Program. Life tenant, Emma Harper. Near the bottom, a line in small print said, "No conveyance, transfer, or encumbrance valid without written consent of life tenant." In plain English, they could not sell my house without my fresh signature and Mr. Carter's language attached. I took a picture of the screen with my phone. Timestamp, 8:24 m. Another little piece of proof. At 9:31, Jenna pulled into my driveway in her shiny SUV, music thumping low. She came in without knocking, all perfume and big smile. "Look at you," she said, giving me a quick hug that felt more like a tap. "You look great. Ready to go cash out that beach shack?" "It's not a shack," I said mildly, picking up my purse. "And I'd like to talk about a few things on the way," she groaned. "Mom, please don't start. Today is supposed to be easy. You show up, sign where they tell you, smile, we go to lunch, that's it." We got into the car. As she backed out, her phone lit up in the cup holder. A text preview popped up on the screen. Realtor Mark, reminder, proceeds will wire out within 2 hours of closing. Confirm act ending in 7732 still correct. Jenna saw me glance down and quickly flipped the phone over. "It's just Mark," she said. "He's thorough." "Ending in 7732, I repeated. "That your account?" "Yes, Mom," she laughed, but it sounded thin. "You hate dealing with banks. I'm just funneling it through mine so I can manage everything for you. Taxes, updates, maybe a little condo closer to us later. You know, all the adult stuff." "So you're the adult and I'm what, the confused mascot?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She rolled her eyes again. "You're being paranoid. You always get like this with money. You forget things, you mix up numbers, then you freak out. I'm trying to help." There it was, the gaslighting, painting me as forgetful, fragile, out of touch. I almost smiled. I'd heard this playbook before from Tom's brother from a crooked insurance salesman years ago. Make the older woman feel shaky, then slip your hand into her pocket. I may be slow, I said, but I remember what my house is worth. Well, technically I'm the one who made it worth anything, she shot back. I found the realtor I negotiated. I handled all the emails while you were napping and watching crime shows. You should be grateful, not suspicious. We hit a red light. I looked over at her. Her jaw was tight. A little vein pulsed in her neck. She was scared even if she didn't know it yet. Jenna, I said softly, did you ever plan to tell me the buyer's money was going straight to your account? She made a face. Why does it matter whose name is on the wire? It's still family money. You act like I'm robbing you. You've said 100 times you don't even like going down there alone anymore. I'm saving you stress. That's not the same as telling the truth, I said. Saving me stress isn't the same as selling my house out from under me. She tightened her grip on the wheel. You're twisting everything. You signed the paperwork in March. You knew we were putting it all together. Maybe you don't remember it clearly, but that's not my fault. The words landed heavy. Maybe you don't remember. I thought about the pictures of the deed on my phone, the email from Linda, the new recording on the county website, my meeting with Mr. Carter. Oh, I remember, I said quietly. More than you think? Jenna snorted and pulled into the title company parking lot, a low brick building with mirrored windows. Whatever, she said. Can you please just be normal for 1 hour? Smile sign, let me handle it. If you start asking weird questions in there, you're going to embarrass both of us. I pressed my hand over the red folder in my purse and felt the edges of the papers inside. Don't worry, Jenna, I said, opening my door. I promise you, nobody in that room is going to forget what happens today. Because she still thought I was walking into that office as the confused old lady she'd scripted in her head. She had no clue I was about to flip her whole show upside down, right in front of an audience. The night before the closing, after Jenna left, I had made one more call. At 7:03 p.m., I dialed Mr. Carter's office number, the one on his old business card. He picked up on the second ring. Emma. Everything all right? Not exactly, I said. My daughter thinks she's selling my beach house tomorrow morning. I just sent you the settlement statement and the emails. Check your inbox. I heard his keyboard clicking, then a low whistle. Net proceeds to daughter, 0 to you, he said. And she's listed as seller, even though the new deed shows the scholarship fund as remainder owner and you as life tenant. This closing cannot legally happen the way they've written it. That's what I was hoping you'd say, I answered. He chuckled softly. Would you like some company at the table, Mrs. Harper? Yes, I said. I'd like them all to hear the same truth at the same time. At 7:19 p.m., my phone buzzed with his text. Carter, I'll be there at 10 a.m. sharp. Bring all your copies. Let them talk first. So now, walking into the title office with Jenna, that little message sat in the back of my mind like a warm hand on my shoulder. The lobby smelled like lemon cleaner and new carpet. A young woman at the front desk looked up and smiled. Hi there, are you here for the 10 a.m. Harper Beach property closing? Yes, Jenna said quickly, stepping in front of me. I'm Jenna Cole, I'm handling everything. My mom just needs to sign. The receptionist glanced at me. And you're Emma Harper? I am, I said. I own the house we're talking about. Her smile flickered just a little. Of course, you're both on the file, please have a seat. The closer and the buyer's attorney will be with you soon. We sat on a gray sofa. Jenna scrolled on her phone, bouncing her foot. Remember, she said without looking at me, no weird questions about trust stuff. They deal with this every day, just sign where they point. If you don't understand something, I'll explain later. Oh, I plan to ask my questions right here, I said, out loud. She shot me a sharp look. Mom, the glass door opened again. A tall man with silver hair, a navy suit, and a scuffed leather briefcase walked in. Mr. Carter. He looked like every courtroom drama lawyer rolled into one. He caught my eye, gave the smallest nod, then walked right up to the front desk. Good morning, he said. Carter Lawson, I represent Mrs. Emma Harper regarding the Harper Beach property. Jenna's head snapped toward me. You brought a lawyer? I kept my face neutral. I told you I like to read before I sign. The receptionist's fingers flew over her keyboard. Oh yes, I see a note here that seller's counsel might attend. We'll let the closer know. Jenna leaned toward me, whispering through her teeth. "What are you doing? This makes it look like you don't trust me." I looked her straight in the eye. "We're signing over a house, Jenna. Trust is earned. Paperwork is checked." A woman in a blazer appeared in the doorway. "Harper party, we're ready for you." We followed her into a long conference room with a polished table. At one end sat a man in a crisp shirt with a slim briefcase, the buyer's attorney, I guessed. Next to him was a folder with tabs and a set of keys I recognized. My keys, the old brass ones to the beach house. The closer, a woman with reading glasses on a chain smiled at us. Nameplate, Karen Wells, escrow officer. "Good morning," she said. "We've got everything ready to go. Once signatures are done, we'll record the deed and release funds. Should be quick." Carter set his briefcase down and slid into the chair beside me. "Before we begin," he said calmly, "I'd like to review the deed you intend to record and the payout sheet on behalf of my client." Karen blinked but handed him the stack on top. "Of course, it's all standard." Jenna shifted in her seat. "We already went over this," she said, her voice a little high. "My mom's just here to sign. We don't need to make this complicated." Carter put on his glasses, flipped through the pages, and then stopped. His mouth pressed into a thin line. "Mrs. Wells," he said, tapping the deed, "this is not the most recent recorded document on this property, and this settlement statement routes all proceeds to Miss Cole here with none to my client." The room went very still. Even the little wall clock seemed to get louder. "Before anyone signs anything," Carter said, setting the papers down with a soft thump, "we need to clear up some serious problems with this transaction." And from the way every eye in that room swung toward Jenna, I knew the real show was just about to start. Carter adjusted his glasses and looked around the table. "For the record," he said, "my client is Emma Harper, the person who owns this beach house. Before anyone signs, we need to be sure these papers match what's actually on record." Karen, the escrow officer, frowned. "What do you mean?" Carter slid the deed they'd prepared back toward her. "This shows Jenna Cole as the only owner and seller, but 3 months ago Mrs. Harper signed and recorded a new deed. I have certified copies and a county record search from this morning." He tapped his folder. "The remainder interest now belongs to the Harper Education Fund and the Little Harbor Scholarship Program. Mrs. Harper holds a life estate. No sale can happen without her clear consent." The buyer's attorney sat up. "So my client cannot get clear title today?" "That is correct," Carter said. He picked up the settlement sheet. "And there's more. All net proceeds are going to Miss Cole, none to Mrs. Harper or the scholarship fund." Every eye turned to Jenna. "That's just how we arranged it," Jenna said quickly. "It's family money. I'm managing it for her. Mom gets confused by numbers. This way is easier. She knows that." I took the red folder from my purse and opened it. "What I know," I said, "is what I signed, what we filed, and what you tried to hide." I slid a printed screenshot onto the table. At the top was the county website with the parcel number, my name, and the words, "Life tenant, Emma Harper, remainder Harper Education Fund," plus a time stamp from that morning. "This is the deed on record," I said. "Not the one you're trying to use today." Next, I placed the settlement statement they'd prepared in the middle of the table with one line highlighted. Net proceeds wire, Jenna Cole $482,000. Emma Harper $0. I looked at Karen. "Nobody told me I was getting zero," I said. "My daughter told me she was selling my house for us. She never said the buyer's money was going straight to her account." Jenna gave a tight laugh. "Mom, you're remembering wrong again. We talked about this. You said you didn't want money stress at your age. You told me to handle everything." Karen studied the papers, then glanced at Carter. "Do you have your own copies of the recorded deed?" He slid a thin stack to her. "Certified from the county clerk," he said. "Recorded date, document number, and the clause that says no transfer without Mrs. Harper's consent." The buyer's attorney cleared his throat. "If the remainder belongs to a scholarship fund and the life tenant doesn't agree, my client cannot proceed under these terms. We'd need a new contract and full disclosure." "So," Carter said, folding his hands, "unless everyone here wants to risk a title dispute and a fraud claim, this closing is not happening today. My client will not be signing anything." Jenna turned to me, cheeks burning. "You can't do this," she hissed. "Mom, this is insane. You're embarrassing me. You're ruining everything over some old house you barely use." I held her gaze. "That old house is where your father's ashes are scattered and where you took your first steps," I said. "You were willing to steal it from me." Karen cleared her throat. Given this information, I'm putting this closing on hold, she said. We're not moving forward today. The buyer's attorney snapped his briefcase shut. Call us when your family has sorted out who actually has the right to sell, he said, standing. Jenna stayed in her chair while everyone else calmly packed up and walked out. And as I watched her in that bright, quiet room, I knew this was only the first public bill she'd pay for trying to sell my life out from under me. We walked out of that conference room together, but it didn't feel like together anymore. The hallway smelled like copier toner and coffee. Jenna's heels clicked hard on the tile. The front door of the building shut behind us with a heavy thud. Out in the parking lot, she spun on me. What was that? She snapped. You ambushed me with a lawyer in front of everyone? I held my purse strap with one hand and kept my voice calm. I protected my home and my name, I said. That's what grown-ups do with things they worked for. You just embarrassed me, she shot back. You made me look like some kind of thief. I looked her straight in the eye. If you don't want to look like a thief, sweetheart, stop arranging things that only make sense if you're stealing. Her mouth opened and closed. For a second, she actually looked young, like the girl who used to cry when her bike chain slipped. I was trying to help you, she said, but it came out thin. You hate money stuff, I just streamlined it. Streamlining doesn't usually involve wiring almost $500,000 to yourself and zero to the owner, I said. That's not helping, that's taking. She ran a hand through her hair. You're twisting everything, you're forgetting our talks, you've been off lately, even the kids say you repeat yourself. There it was again, the "you're old and confused" card. My memory seems sharp enough to hire my own lawyer, I said. Sharp enough to file a deed you never bothered to read. Her face darkened. So what now? You're going to cancel everything. You're going to leave that place sitting there rotting just to spite me? I'm going to sit down with people who don't lie to me, I answered. Then I'm going to make sure you can't touch $1 more of mine without my say-so. She let out a bitter laugh. You can't cut me out. I'm your only child. I felt something hard settle into place inside my chest. Being my only child doesn't give you a license to rob me, I said quietly. It just means there's nobody else to blame. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me, then she yanked open her car door. Fine, she said, figure it out yourself. Don't call me when the roof leaks or when you forget your passwords. I won't, I said. She slammed the door and drove away fast, tires squealing just a little on the pavement. I watched her taillights disappear, then reached into my purse and took out my phone. It was 10:52 a.m. I dialed the number on the back of my credit card. A robot answered, then a woman with a soft southern voice. Thank you for calling, she said. How can I help you today, Miss Harper? I'd like to review unauthorized charges and check if anyone's been added as an authorized user, I said. And I'd like all of that in writing. We went line by line. The furniture store charge, a couple of fancy restaurants I'd never set foot in, a kids' indoor playground across town at 2:03 p.m. on a day I was at a doctor's appointment in another city. At the end, she paused. Miss Harper, she said, I do see an authorized user added in April. Name Jenna Cole, same last name as you. Did you request that? I closed my eyes for a second. No, I said. I did not. We can remove her and flag this account, the woman said. We'll also mail you a fraud packet that lists all disputed charges with dates and locations. Once you sign it, we'll investigate formally. Please do, I said, and send it to my home address. I'll be waiting for it. When I hung up, I called Carter next. I just found out she added herself to my credit card, I said. Without asking me, there's a trail. That fits a pattern, he replied. Financial abuse, unauthorized use, attempted property fraud. When that fraud packet arrives, keep every page, we'll use it. Can we make sure she never gets near my accounts again? I asked. Oh, Mrs. Harper, he said almost kindly. We can do much more than that. I sat at my kitchen table that afternoon with my red proof folder, my checkbook, and a fresh stack of sticky notes. One by one, I wrote out what Jenna had done. Unauthorized card charges. Hidden settlement statement. Wire instructions with only her name. A fake story about trust paperwork in March. Then I opened my old will from the fireproof box and laid it flat. There was a time when I thought love meant giving her everything. Now I understood that real love sometimes meant stopping someone before they destroyed themselves with your help. I picked up my pen and circled her name. because the house wasn't the only thing she was about to lose for what she'd tried to pull on me. 2 days after the failed closing, the fraud packet from my credit card company landed in my mailbox with a heavy thunk. The envelope was thick, my name was printed in bold. It felt like proof you could hold. I sat at the kitchen table, put on my glasses, and opened it. Inside were neatly printed pages. Every suspicious charge with dates, times, and locations. The furniture store, the fancy restaurant, the kids' playground. Each one had a little box next to it. Check if you did not authorize this transaction. I picked up my pen and started ticking boxes. No, no, no. At the bottom, there was a simple line. Was the authorized user Jenna Cole added with your permission? I checked the box that said no, signed my name, and wrote the date nice and clear. My hand shook a little, not from fear, but from anger that finally had somewhere to go. When I was done, I slipped everything back into the return envelope and sealed it. Then I grabbed my purse and my red proof folder and drove to Carter's office. His building was older, with creaky stairs and the smell of coffee and paper. He met me at the door of his office. "Mrs. Harper," he said, standing up. "Come on in, how are you holding up?" "I've been better," I said, sitting down across from him, "but I'm done being stupid." I laid the fraud packet on his desk. "They confirmed she added herself as an authorized user," I said. "And they're opening a formal investigation." I checked every box. He skimmed the pages, his eyes narrowing. "Good," he said. "This creates a paper trail that doesn't come from just you. We have a bank saying in writing that your daughter added herself without clear permission and used the card for her own purchases." He flipped open a yellow legal pad. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "First, we're going to secure everything that's yours, then we're going to decide how far you want these consequences to go." "Secure first," I said. "I don't want to be one bad week away from broke." He nodded. "We already have the house locked with the scholarship deed, so she can't sell it out from under you. Next step, we change your will and your powers of attorney. Right now, your old documents name Jenna as your financial agent and main heir." "Not for long," I said. For the next hour, we went line by line. He drafted a new will leaving the beach house after my death fully to the scholarship fund. My savings and investments were split. A small, supervised trust for my grandkids when they turned 25, the rest to charity in that same fund. "And Jenna?" he asked, pen hovering. I took a breath. $50, I said. "Enough so nobody can say I forgot her." "Not enough to reward her for this?" He didn't flinch. "That will hold up," he said. "I'll also add a separate letter to the file in your own words explaining why. Judges like context." Next, we signed papers revoking Jenna as my financial power of attorney. Instead, I named Linda as my backup, with a bank trust officer as second in line. People who actually cared whether I ate. Carter slid one last form toward me. "This one authorizes me to send a formal notice to your banks, your credit card company, and if needed, adult protective services," he said. "It states that there has been attempted financial exploitation by a family member. If she keeps pushing, there will be a record waiting for her." I stared at the line where I needed to sign. It felt heavy. It also felt right. "I don't want to see her in handcuffs," I said slowly. "But I want her to understand the line she crossed, and I want that line written down somewhere she can't erase." "Then this is exactly the right step," he said. I signed. By late afternoon, copies of my new will and powers of attorney were scanned and filed. Carter's assistant faxed and emailed notices to my bank and card company, removing Jenna from everything. Another letter, more serious, was prepared for Jenna herself, explaining that she was no longer authorized on my accounts, that the attempted sale had been blocked, and that any further attempts could trigger a formal fraud complaint. "Do you want us to mail this?" Carter asked, holding up the letter with her name on it. "Or do you want to be there when she reads it?" I felt the old hurt rise up, her smirk in my kitchen, her eye rolls, her "you always forget" tone. Then I thought about my grandkids, who had no idea their mom had tried to cash out their grandfather's dream for a quick payday. "Oh, I want to be there," I said. "If she's going to see how badly she misjudged me, she can look me in the eye while she does it." Carter smiled, small and sharp. "Then I'll set it up," he said. "You just pick the place." I slipped the red folder back into my bag, but this time it felt different on my shoulder. Because the next time Jenna tried to talk to me like I was weak and confused, she'd be reading it off letterhead that said the exact opposite in black and white. We agreed to meet at my house on Saturday afternoon. I told Jenna it was to clear the air. I didn't mention that Carter would be there too. She came in without knocking as usual, phone in her hand, sunglasses on top of her head. "So," she said, dropping her purse on a chair, "are you done being mad? Because that buyer is still interested. We can fix this and try again if you stop making it weird." "Sit down," I said. She frowned, but she sat at the kitchen table. A minute later, there was a knock at the door. I opened it for Carter. "Hi, Jenna," he said politely, stepping inside with his briefcase. "We met at the title office." Her face tightened. "Why is he here?" "Because I'm not having this conversation alone," I said. Carter sat across from her and opened his case. He took out one white envelope with her name typed on it and set it in front of her. "What is this?" she asked. "A summary," I said, "of what's changed since you tried to sell my house and empty my accounts." She tore it open, unfolded the letter, and started to read. Her eyes moved fast over the lines, then slowed. The letter explained that she had been removed from all my bank accounts and credit cards, that the credit card company had opened a fraud investigation into charges made by an unauthorized user named Jenna Cole, that any further use of my name or property without consent could be treated as financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Her fingers tightened on the paper. "You called me what?" she whispered. "An exploiter." Carter's voice stayed calm. "We stated there was attempted financial exploitation," he said. "Which is exactly what routing the entire sale of your mother's home into your own account would have been." "I was going to use it for her," she shot back. "You make it sound like I'm some criminal." "Criminal or not is up to the people reading those reports," he said. "We simply wrote down the facts." She crumpled a corner of the letter. "You can't do this. I'm your daughter," she said, looking at me. "You're supposed to trust me. You're supposed to leave things to me. That's how this works." I reached into my own folder and pulled out another document, sliding it across the table. "This is my new will," I said. "The beach house goes to the scholarship fund after I die. My savings go partly to charity, partly into a trust for your kids when they're older. You get $50. Her mouth fell open. $50? "So no one can say I forgot you," I said. "Just so they know it was a choice." Tears filled her eyes, sharp and angry. "You're punishing me," she said, "forever, over one deal that didn't even happen. You tried to sell the last thing your father and I built together," I said. "You lied about it. You put my name on nothing and yours on everything. That's not one mistake, that's a plan." She shook her head. "You can change it back," she said. "We can redo the will later when you're calmer. Lawyers change things all the time." Carter cleared his throat. "She can," he said, "but only if she wants to on her own, without pressure. And after today, if anyone sees sudden changes that hand everything back to you, they'll know exactly where to look and what pattern to compare it to." Jenna stared at him like she wanted to burn the letter through the table. Then she looked at me. "So that's it?" she asked. "You're just done with me?" I felt my throat tighten. "No," I said. "I'm done letting you handle my money. I'm done pretending you haven't crossed a line. If you want a relationship, it will be without my checkbook in your hands." "And if I walk out?" she asked. I folded my hands on the table. "Then you walk out," I said. "But you don't take my house, my savings, or my name with you." She stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. She shoved the letter back into the envelope, grabbed her purse, and headed for the door. On the porch, she turned back, eyes red. "You'll regret this," she said. "When you're old and alone and need help, you'll regret cutting me out." I looked past her toward the small framed photo of Tom and me on the hall table, both of us laughing with the ocean behind us. "I am old," I said, "and for the first time in a long time, I don't regret a thing." She drove away without another word. A month later, I sat on the deck of my beach house with my blue blanket around my shoulders. A letter lay open in my lap from the scholarship fund, telling me about the first 2 students who would get help from the Harper House Award next fall. The waves rolled in and pulled back, steady and sure. The house creaked the same way it always had. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. Jenna's name glowed on the screen. I let it ring, watched it go quiet, then folded the scholarship letter and pressed it to my chest. In the end, she lost my money and my house, but I kept my voice. Watch next, pick a video on screen, and hit subscribe. Thank you so much guys for your support. Comment your name with your city. I will give you a shout out in next video.